I think we should stop. I'm no longer interested in you. You are just a mechanic.
Now because of that banker. Okay, Chidima, no problem.
Chidima had everything she thought she wanted. A tall man with a fat account, a car with air conditioning that actually worked, an apartment in a part of Lagos where the generator ran all night and nobody counted units. She had the life. The problem was, the life had an expiry date printed on the back and nobody told her to check. When the expiry came, it didn't announce itself. It didn't knock. It just arrived one Tuesday morning in the form of a locked apartment door, a missing husband, and a Lagos that had absolutely no interest in her situation. This is the story of what happens when you trade a man's gold for another man's glitter, and what it costs you when the glitter wears off. Sit down, we are going all the way in. To understand what destroyed Chidima, you have to go back 5 years, back to Aba. Aba, where the streets smell like engine oil and pepper soup, and the particular brand of ambition that grows in people who have nothing to lose. Where every second car is a tokumbo held together by wire, prayers, and the grace of God. Where a good mechanic isn't just a businessman, he is a community pillar. Obina's workshop sat along Forks Road. 3 boys under him, an old zinc roof that sang in the rain, a hand-painted sign that read, "God's Time Motors." The paint was peeling, but the customers never stopped coming. Obina had hands that could resurrect an engine the way revival pastors claim to resurrect destinies, except when Obina laid hands on something, it actually worked. He wasn't just skilled, he was the kind of man who showed up. When your car broke down at 6 in the morning on your way to an interview, Obina showed up. When the pastor's wife's Sienna started overheating on a Sunday, Obina showed up in his mechanic clothes and fixed it before second service ended, then refused to collect full payment because not God's work. The whole street knew him. The whole street liked him. 2 streets away, Chidima sold provisions from her mother's shop. She was the kind of beauty that requires no effort and produces maximum chaos, the kind that made Okada riders overshoot their drop-off and pretend it was traffic. Old men who came for groundnut oil would suddenly forget why they entered the shop. Chidima knew she was fine. That was never the problem. The problem was the hunger she carried behind the beauty. Not the hunger of poverty, the hunger of someone who looks at their own life and finds it too small. The hunger that Instagram feeds and never satisfies. Obina started coming to the shop. First, it was normal things, cabin biscuit, Fanta, pure water. But when the boy started buying sanitary pads for his sister 3 times in a month, Chidima understood perfectly what was happening. She wasn't born yesterday, she just chose to let him come back a 4th time. He confessed one evening, standing outside the shop as the sun went down over Aba. His fingernails still dark with grease from the day's work. His voice was quiet, but his words were direct because Obina had never learned to say things sideways. He said, "Chidima, I know say I be mechanic. I no get car, I no get house, but I get plan, and I get heart wey no go ever break your own." She looked at him for a long moment. This man with oil-dark hands and a dream that was bigger than his current pocket, and something in her, something real, something that had not yet learned to lie to itself, softened. She said yes. Not a loud yes, the quiet kind, the kind that meant, let me see where this goes. For 2 years they were together. Obina was faithful the way a village well is faithful, always there, always clean, never performing. He walked her home from the shop, he bought her airtime before she even knew she needed it, he fixed her mother's generator every time it coughed without being asked, and refused the money Mama Chidima tried to press into his hand. He would sit with the family on Sunday evenings and eat whatever was cooked and never once make anyone feel like he was doing them a favor by staying. Mama Chidima liked him, the neighbors liked him, even the area pastor used his workshop. But Chidima was restless in a way she couldn't name and wouldn't admit. She would lie in bed at night scrolling Instagram, the Instagram of Lagos, the one full of women her age in Range Rovers with human hair that cost more than Obina's monthly income. women eating small food on large plates in Dubai restaurants, women whose lives looked like the answer to a prayer she hadn't even prayed yet. She would watch these women and feel something tighten in her chest. Not jealousy exactly, hunger. The particular hunger that has no bottom and doesn't care what you feed it. She would look at Obinna, faithful, solid, present, and quietly ask herself if faithfulness was enough, if solidity was enough, if a man who showed up every day but couldn't take her to Dubai was really enough. She had not yet learned that the question itself was the problem. Then Nnamdi appeared. He drove into her life in a black Toyota Camry with leather seats and air conditioning that worked on the first try. He was a banker, one of those big banks with glass doors and security men who wore ties. He had come to Aba for a cousin's wedding and somehow found himself standing in front of her provision shop asking for bottled water. She gave him the water, he gave her his number. She didn't call. He came back the next day and the next. By the fourth visit, he was taking her to a restaurant where the menu had no prices. When you see a menu with no prices, one of two things is true. Either the food is free or you cannot afford to ask. Nnamdi didn't check the bill. He just smiled, brought out his card and tapped. The beep of that POS machine accepting payment did something to Chidima's reasoning that she would spend years trying to undo. 2 weeks later, Chidima sat Obinna down. She didn't shout, she didn't fight. She simply said, "Obinna, I think we should stop. We want different things." Obinna went quiet, the kind of quiet that is not peace but is holding an entire storm in place by sheer will. His jaw tightened, his hands, those hands that could fix anything mechanical, hung at his sides because there are some things a mechanic cannot fix, and a woman who has already decided is one of them. He asked, "Now because of that banker?" She said nothing. Her silence was louder than any answer she could have given. Obinna stood up, looked at her one last time with an expression she would not understand until years later, and walked away. He didn't beg, he didn't threaten, he didn't cry where she could see. He went back to his workshop and buried his heartbreak under engine parts and brake fluid and the honest, uncomplaining walk that had always been his response to pain. Some men drink when their heart breaks, some men fight. Obinna walked. And this is where everything changed. Chidima married Nnamdi 3 months after Obinna walked away. The wedding was everything Instagram had promised. Champagne gold asoebi, small chops with actual meat in them, a 5-tier cake taller than every expectation anyone had ever carried into that hall. Chidima's mother danced like she had personally won a government contract. Her aunties took videos they would watch for years. Her friends posted pictures with captions like "God when" and "My own is loading." Obinna saw the pictures. Someone showed them to him without thinking. He looked at each one for a long time, said nothing, set down the phone and went back under the Hilux he was servicing. The boy assisting him that day asked, "Oga, you dey alright?" Obinna just grunted. Some pain is not for public consumption. You chew it, you swallow it, you go back to work. The first year of the marriage was sweet enough to make Chidima believe she had been right. Nnamdi relocated her to Lagos, Ajah specifically, but she told people Victoria Island because Ajah carries the sound of struggle and she was not ready to carry that sound yet. The apartment had tiled floors and 4 gas burners. 4! Back in Aba, she had cooked on a single burner kerosene stove that smelled like ambition and kerosene. 4 burners felt like a rival. For a year, it felt like the life she had been promised. Then the year ended and reality submitted its invoice. The cracks did not come all at once. They came like the Harmattan comes, slowly then completely. First, it was the late nights. Nnamdi coming home late after dinner had gone cold, loosening his tie in the doorway with the quiet of a man carrying something he hasn't told you about. She would ask, he would say work. She would look at him and see the word work doing too much heavy lifting. Then it was the money. The way he started wincing at the supermarket, counting things, suggesting we cook more at home. Nothing criminal in any of these things individually, but Chidima had married a man who ordered food without checking prices. This new Nnamdi checked prices. She felt the difference in her chest before she could name it in her head. Then the bank restructured. Restructured, such a clean word for a dirty thing. What restructured meant was Nnamdi sat in an office on a Thursday afternoon while someone across a desk read him a letter and handed him a handshake and 2 months' salary. 2 months' salary in Lagos is not a safety net, it is a countdown. He didn't tell her. He couldn't find the words. Maybe the words didn't exist. Maybe some sentences, "I lost my job, I have no income, I have been lying to you for 3 weeks," are physically impossible for certain men to form. So instead, Nnamdi put on his suit every morning, sprayed his perfume, and drove to a plaza in Sangotedo where he would sit in the food court for hours making phone calls that went nowhere, performing employment for an audience of one, himself. Lagos is a small village wrapped in a big city's clothes. Somebody who knew Chidima saw Nnamdi in that food court on a Tuesday. The information arrived to Chidima's phone before Nnamdi arrived home that evening. The fight that followed was not a private fight. The neighbors did not need to press their ears to the wall. Chidima's voice moved through concrete like it had been designed for it. "How long? How long have you been lying to me, Nnamdi? You wake up every morning, you wear suit, you spray perfume, you leave this house. For where? To go and sit in ShopRite food court? Is that where they are now posting jobs?" Nnamdi said, "It's temporary. I'll find something." She said, "Find something where? In the food court? Between your chicken and chips?" It was the beginning of the end, and both of them knew it. Nnamdi started drinking. Not the social kind, the hiding kind, the ogogoro at noon, red eyes by evening kind that has nothing to do with celebration and everything to do with a man who cannot face what he has become. He became someone else entirely, small, cornered, resentful of the very woman who had believed in the version of himself he could no longer maintain. He started borrowing. Friends, apps, the loan companies that send messages calling you dear value customer while they prepare to send your contact list a broadcast of your debt. He borrowed from all of them. And when the collection calls started, the aggressive ones, the threatening ones, the ones that know your mother's name, Nnamdi made a choice that weak men across generations have always made when the walls close in. He disappeared. Not died, not traveled for business, disappeared. He left on a Tuesday morning in his suit as usual. He did not come back. His phone rang twice and went off. His friends had not seen him. His family in the East said they hadn't called. There was nothing, just absence where a husband used to be. Chidima was alone in Lagos. Lagos, which is the least sympathetic city in the world. Lagos, which wakes up every morning already too busy to care about your situation. Lagos, which will let you drown in the middle of its rush hour and step over you to catch a bus. Rent was due. It is always due. The landlord did not want to hear about missing husbands and restructuring banks and life going sideways. He wanted his money. When she couldn't produce it, he changed the lock while she was at the market. She came home to a door that no longer recognized her. She called Nnamdi's family. "Sorry, we don't know where he is." Translation, not our problem. She called her mother, Mama Chidima, voice heavy with the particular sorrow of a mother watching what she feared come true, said the simple thing: "Come home. Come back to Aba." Chidima stood in the street outside the locked apartment she could no longer enter, phone to her ear, and she could not say yes. Because how do you go back? How does the girl who left in champagne gold Asoebi, who told people she lived in Victoria Island, who looked at a man with oil-stained hands and decided he wasn't enough, how does that girl walk back through the gates of Aba with nothing? Pride is the most expensive thing a poor person owns, and Chidima was too proud to put hers down. She stayed in Lagos. She moved in with a friend in Ekorodu, a single room. After 4 burners, she was cooking on one again. Life has a humor to it, dry, dark, without mercy. She had left a 1-burner life chasing a 4-burner future, and here she was, back at 1. Except now, it wasn't her mother's stove. It was somebody else's, in somebody else's room, in a part of Lagos that was an hour and a half from anywhere she needed to be. She looked for work. Lagos jobs don't come easy for a woman with SSCE and provision shop experience. She applied. She was rejected. She applied again. The cycle repeated itself until she stopped counting rejections and started counting days. Then her friend told her about a cleaning job.
A man in Lekki Phase 1 needed someone to clean his house 3 times a week. The money was fair. The man was rarely home, always at his business. Easy work, honest work. Chidima sat with the idea for 2 days. She turned it over in her mind the way you turn a stone you are not sure you want to pick up. Cleaning another person's house. Her, the girl from Aba, who once had 4 burners and told people she lived in Victoria Island. But hunger is more honest advisor than pride. And hunger said, go. She swallowed what remained of her pride. It tasted like chalk dissolved in old regret, and said yes. She took the address, took a bus from Ekorodo to Lekki, sat in traffic for 3 hours while Lagos pressed against every window and reminded her in the particular way that only Lagos can of every single choice that delivered her to this seat on this bus going to clean this stranger's house. She arrived at the estate, walked through the security gate, found the house, white painted walls, blue gate, quiet compound, 2 cars parked inside, a generator running so smoothly it was barely audible, the kind of compound that announces its owner's life before the owner appears. She knocked. The security man let her through, led her to the main door. The door opened. She almost didn't recognize him. 5 years had not just passed over Obinna, they had worked on him. The oil-stained fingernails were gone, the zinc-roofed workshop had become a chain. God's time mottos, 6 branches across Lagos and Aba, with branded uniforms and staff, and a YouTube channel where he taught people car maintenance in Igbo and English. The sign that once had peeling paint now had a neon logo. The boy who couldn't afford a car had a Hilux, a Mercedes, and a G-Wagon at the Aba branch he kept because, as he told the journalist who interviewed him last year, that's where it started. He looked at her. She looked at him. 5 years of choices and consequences stood between them, filling the doorway, taking up all the available air. Chidima's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Shame does that. It steals your voice at the exact moment you need it most. Her eyes filled with the particular kind of tears that don't fall immediately. They sit, blurring the whole world into a watercolor painting of everything you cannot undo. She finally said, Obinna, I didn't know this was your house. He looked at her for a moment, just a moment, and whatever passed across his face was too quick and too complicated to name. Then he said quietly, I know. Come inside. Before we go into the biggest twist of this story, subscribe to know what Obinna does. She cleaned his house that day. She cleaned floors she could have walked on as a wife. She dusted shelves that could have held photographs of a life she chose not to live. She washed plates in a kitchen she could have cooked in as madame, not as employee. She moved through every room the way you move through a version of your own life you threw away. Carefully, quietly, unable to look directly at any of it for too long. The curtains smelled like his cologne, the same scent, slightly richer now, worn by a man who could afford a better bottle of the same essential thing he had always been. Obinna stayed in his study the entire time. He did not hover. He did not watch. He gave her the dignity of privacy in his own home, and somehow this was harder to bear than anything else he could have done. Because mockery you can harden yourself against, contempt you can build a wall for, but kindness from someone you wronged is a thing that walks straight through every defense you have. When she finished, he came out and handed her an envelope. She opened it. The amount inside was 3 times the agreed payment. Obinna, this is too much. Take it, he said. You need it more than I need to count it. She stood in his sitting room holding money from the man whose heart she broke, in the house she could have lived in, and she did not have a single word available to her. The dictionary had run out. Language had run out. There was only the envelope and the weight of it. She came back the following week, and the week after. She came because she needed the money, yes, but also because there was something happening in that house that she couldn't name. A slow, painful education that she was receiving whether she wanted it or not. Every room she cleaned taught her something. Every surface she wiped read to her like a page of a book she should have studied 5 years ago. Obinna was always polite, always respectful. He never mentioned Aba. He never mentioned Namdi. He never allowed his face to form the expression of a man who knows he was right. Some men rise into arrogance. Others rise into something far more difficult to process. Dignity. Quiet, consistent, non-performative dignity. That dignity burned her more than any cruelty could have. One evening, after she finished, he asked her to sit. He brought 2 bottles of Maltina, the same drink he used to buy from her mother's provision shop in Aba when his biggest expense was airtime. He set one in front of her without ceremony and sat across from her and said nothing for a moment. Just let the silence be. Then, Chidima, I'm not going to pretend this situation is normal. It isn't, but I don't hold anything against you. I want you to know that. Not because I'm performing forgiveness, because it's true. She broke. Not the careful, composed kind of breaking that still maintains some dignity. The other kind, the kind that takes over the whole body. Her shoulders shook. Sounds came out of her that she had been holding for 5 years. The sounds of wrong choices and swallowed pride, and the particular grief of a woman who had looked at something real and called it not enough. Obinna sat across from her and let her cry. He did not touch her. He did not try to make it stop, because some grief is not a problem to be solved. Some grief is a debt the body has to pay in full, and the only thing you can do for someone paying it is to stay in the room. When she finally stilled, when the shaking stopped and the sounds reduced to silence, he said the thing she would carry for the rest of her life. You didn't ruin my life, Chidima. You redirected it. When you left, I had nothing left to do but work. So I worked, and the work became this. He gestured at the room around them, not boasting, simply acknowledging. God used what you did, not what you did itself. That part was wrong and we both know it. But God took what was meant to break me and built me out of it. Those are two different things, the action and what God did with it. Don't confuse them. She looked at him.
He continued, but hear me clearly. I'm not telling you this so you feel better. I'm telling you this so you understand something. The thing you were running after, the bank account, the car, the lifestyle, none of that was wrong to want. The mistake was thinking a man's present pocket was a measure of his future hands. Nnamdi's pockets were full and his hands were empty. Mine were the opposite. You chose the wrong metric. Chidima sat with that sentence for a long time. You chose the wrong metric. She had spent 5 years trying to understand what she had done wrong. She had blamed herself in secular, exhausting ways that never arrived anywhere useful. But this was the first time someone had named it cleanly. Not a moral failure, a measurement error. She had been measuring the wrong thing. Obinna offered her a permanent position at one of his workshops, not as a cleaner, as a receptionist, salary with benefits, a future she could build something on, a door that was not charity but was also not closed. She accepted, not because she had no other option, but because she had finally, after 5 years and one expensive education, learned to recognize a good thing when it was standing directly in front of her, even when she had no right to it, even when it came without the romance, even when it came as a salary and a desk and a second chance, wearing the practical clothes of employment rather than the fantasy clothes of what should have been. Obinna eventually married. Her name was Adaeze, a nurse from Enugu. Quiet the way deep water is quiet, not empty, full. She did not care about Instagram or Victoria Island or menus without prices. She cared about the actual person sitting across from her at dinner. She cared about Obinna, the real one, the one underneath the success, the one who had once stood outside a provision shop in a bar with oil-stained fingernails and a hat he was willing to bet everything on. That Obinna, she saw him and chose him, and that was enough. It was exactly enough. Chidima went to the wedding. She wore a nice dress and smiled the whole day and danced when it was time to dance. And when the couple cut the cake and Adaeze looked at Obinna the way Chidima had once been too distracted to look at him, Chidima felt something settle in her chest. Not bitterness, something quieter than bitterness. The particular peace of a woman who has accepted the full cost of her education and decided to live well anyway. Late at night in her room in Ikorodu, a better room now, her own room, paid for with her own money, she would stare at the ceiling sometimes and hear his voice from that Aba evening. I get heart wey no go ever break your own. He had kept that promise, even the night she broke his. The world tells you to chase what glitters. Instagram confirms this daily. Every algorithm you have ever interacted with has been designed to show you someone else's shine and make your own life feel like a rough draft. And Chidima had believed it fully, completely,
with everything she had. She chased a banker's glitter and walked away from a mechanic's gold. By the time she understood the difference between the two, she was holding a mop in the house that should have been hers. But here is the thing about expensive educations, and this is the part most people miss. The cost does not cancel the lesson. Chidima learned, slowly, painfully, one cleaned floor at a time. She learned what to measure and how to measure it. She built a life, not the life she had imagined at 22, scrolling Instagram in a bar, but a real one, hers, honest, solid, the kind that doesn't need to lie about its location. She became the woman she should have been before she let hunger make decisions for her. Not every story ends with the thing you lost being given back. Some stories end with you becoming someone who no longer needs it returned. Chidima's story ended there. Not with Obinna, not with a second chance at the life she threw away, but with herself, finally, fully, with no borrowed shine and nothing rented. And if you ask her now, she will tell you, the mop taught me more than the wedding ever could. That is the most expensive education money cannot buy and the most valuable one a person can receive.